All right, let's discuss the differences between EMT, EMS, first responders, whatever you want to call them, and nursing. And for reference or disclosure, I'm not going to be talking about the differences in the education or the classes that they have to take. I will simply be talking about the differences upon which they handle emergent situations. To set up the situation, recently I was involved in a emergent situation to where I actually had to perform life-saving tactics upon an individual. Now, this happened off the clock. I was not at work. I was not dressed for it. I was not prepared. I literally walked up on the scene and had to think on my feet. Me and another nurse were actually together upon this. And as nurses, I'm going to go ahead and say as nurses, we are typically given some sort of report. If it is in the emergency room, we are actually given a report by the EMS, and they tell us their findings. We then act upon those findings, and we also go upon a set of orders. That can be a set of standing orders. If you're BLS, ACLS, depending upon your certification, you know these standing orders. You know how to react upon these standing orders. You know how to handle yourself in a code situation. First thing that a nurse is going to do in a code situation, we're going to go over and hit that little button that says code blue or whatever color you have designated, and it's going to call a room of people, and one of which will probably be a physician. You are then going to act as a team. This is the nursing. You're going to act as a team in your goal to reverse this emergent situation in resuscitation or whatever it may be. However, you are typically given some sort of baseline information known to you. It could even be as simple as a history that you know as a nurse, you know about, and so you have an idea of to what to expect in this code. And so, since as a nurse we are already given this baseline information, and we know kind of what to expect, we kind of know how to handle ourselves. EMS or EMT or first responders, whatever you want to call them, they typically show up on a scene. They may not have not one lick of information about this individual, and they all of a sudden have to do a very quick, very rapid response in order to save this person from this medical emergency, or this emergency in general. It may not even be medical emergency. And so they are given like the surroundings of the individual, or what is around the individual, or things like this, and EMS has to respond however they need to respond in order to save this individual. And EMS is an entity kind of in its own. They don't really need doctor's orders to perform certain tactics. As a nurse, everything you do is relied upon the nurse. You have to report, is relied upon the doctor, the physician. Everything you do is actually an order, standing or otherwise. Everything that a nurse does is an order, and needs to be reported upon however it needs to be done. And so EMS doesn't really have this. They can respond however is necessary in order to end this medical emergency or get this person to have more medical attention than what is needed to be provided at the scene. Like I said, they typically show up and have no information. If a medical emergency happens at, say, a restaurant, and an individual walks in the restaurant and falls out, and the restaurant calls EMS, they say, well, what happened? Oh, I don't know, he just fell out. Send somebody. EMS only has that to go off of. Whereas as nurses, we already kind of have a baseline data. Even in the emergency room, we will at least have like a baseline set of vitals. We will at least have that much to go off of. So EMS is very specific in its entity, and they do very great work, and they as the first people on the scene, it is their job to get them to us, to the medical side. I'm not saying they're not medical at all, don't get me wrong about that, but they are given bare bones information to perform their job, and they do it very well. And as I said before, I was presented a situation in a parking lot, and I was like, oh, I don't know how to do anything. I don't know what to do. I wasn't trained in that way. Luckily, me and the other nurse were eventually able to kind of calm ourselves and perform what needed to be performed. But it was wild there for maybe about 35 seconds, to where somebody in EMS would have been a lot better prepared, we'll say. But whatever happens, you know what I mean? But to kind of give you a reference, EMS and Army or Navy corpsmen, Army medics, Navy corpsmen, they're kind of the only people that I can think of who can perform various types of life-saving tactics without an order of any sort. And it's simply based on instinct, and that alone is something very special. I don't really think I could do it. I don't think I have the quick thinking, critical thinking skills. I think I could do it critically, but I don't think I could do it quickly and critically as EMS and EMT and Navy corpsmen and the Army medics do. So I don't think I could do it. So my hat is off to you, EMS, EMT. And they do great work. So that's what I have to say about the differences. I hope I didn't confuse you too much. If you got any more questions about it, let me know. I kind of want to do a video about the differences of education as to how they know how to act upon certain situations. And I know that they have a lot of training to do. So I hope it helps. Thank you much.